The wife of a serial killer. In the small town of Willowbrook, nestled in a picturesque valley, everyday life flowed steadily and calmly. Everyone knew each other, and some even shared secrets over cups of coffee at the local cafe. However, beneath this serene surface lay a dreadful secret. The story of a woman who forever changed the lives of her neighbors. Her name was Emily. At first glance, she was the perfect wife and mother. A smile never left her face, and her eyes sparkled with kindness. Emily was well liked in town. She volunteered at the school, organized events for the local charity, and even spoke at parent-teacher meetings, advocating for the children's interest. Her husband, Daniel, was considered an exemplary family man, working as a chemist in the local laboratory. They had two children who grew up surrounded by love and care. But Emily's friends began to notice certain peculiarities. She often spent time alone in the kitchen, teaching her children to cook with suspicious enthusiasm. While chatting over coffee, they occasionally teased her about why she devoted so much time to cooking. Emily always responded with a smile, saying, "I just want my children to learn to appreciate good food." As the years passed, Willowbrook became increasingly isolated from the events of the larger world until something terrible happened. The tidy and tranquil town was shaken by the news that a local resident, Liza, a teacher at the elementary school, had gone missing. Months went by without any sign of her. The remains found in the woods on the outskirts of town sent shockwaves through the community. The police suspected that a serial killer was behind the crime. Emily seemed to cope well with the turmoil that engulfed the residents. She stood by the door each morning as her children left for school. Her support and kindness became a lifeline for those who were losing hope. Yet darkness lurked behind her eyes, whispering of something hidden. Emily continued to cook, but her dishes began to taste unusually spicy and strange. Neighbors exchanged glances when Emily casually mentioned dishes that were very fresh. The buzz of disappearances and mysterious cases in Willowbrook grew louder. With each new body discovered, suspicion between neighbors escalated. Every anxious evening, whispers traveled the streets about the possibility of one among them being the killer. One such night, as the cold winter wind peeked through windows, several neighbors gathered at Daniel and Emily's for dinner. Emily had a reputation as the town's best cook, and her culinary skills preceded her. As they sat at the table discussing who the killer might be, Emily smiled knowingly, pouring wine while adding an unsettling air to the atmosphere. Sometimes, to create something beautiful, you have to use special ingredients, she remarked with a mysterious smile. The others, seemingly oblivious, continued to chat about mundane topics while the aura of mystery enveloped Emily. During this time, strange disappearances began to plague the town. More and more women vanished without a trace. The police became increasingly uncertain, and fear began to rise in Willowbrook. Some residents began to suspect one another, casting wary glances at their neighbors. However, the most terrifying aspect was that Emily seemingly remained untouched by it all. The moon shone brightly one night when a neighbor, Christina, decided to keep an eye on Emily. Filled with suspicion and recalling the oddities she had heard about Emily during dinner, Christina quietly watched her through a window as Emily busied herself in the kitchen. Christina's secret plan turned into a nightmare when she felt a chill of horror wash over her. Emily pulled out an old pot, her movements almost ritualistic. Something glimmered ominously in the light. Christina's heart raced as she struggled to breathe, recognizing, without a doubt, that her fears were coming to fruition. Emily was manipulating items that seemingly had nothing to do with food. In the following days, as the weight of Emily's ominous presence settled over the town, residents began to connect the unresolved mysteries. The local police decided it was time to interview Emily, and although it seemed vicious to suspect her, she navigated the conversations with an air of innocent intrigue. Christina, unable to find peace, resolved to conduct her own investigation. She began noticing flowers in the streets that Emily used in her cooking. Soon, among other details, Christina realized these flowers weren't just decorative. Some of them were poisonous. A dark night came when Christina devised a plan to expose Emily. She set up a situation, inviting several neighbors over for dinner. Persuading Emily, she subtly mentioned wanting to try a few of her special recipes. As Emily laughed and began cooking again, Christina seized the moment to take control. Suspicion hung in the air as neighbors began to ask questions. Some